If you live here in Albuquerque and regularly drive down Central Avenue, you've no doubt seen how much work is being done right now on the Albuquerque Rapid Transit line. That will be a lot of work, and that project was controversial, but Mayor Richard Berry's administration did move forward last year to start work on that project with the expectation that at least $69 million would come from the feds to help pay for it. But that funding is not in President Trump's budget recommendations. Tom Garrity, given what's been reported the past week by local media, it's been tough to kind of really nail this down. But we have this weird period between now and October 1st where, we don't know. We just don't know. Was the city hasty here in starting this project without that federal funding being in pocket first? That's the first question I have.
My opinion, yes.
Okay.
It's as if, my company were to move forward on a project without we might have contract, but we don't have that first payment ahead of time. But hasty in general, yeah, I think there are a lot of folks who say, they'd moved just a little bit too fast. Should have been on Central or should have been Lomas. Could that have been the better way?
That's right.
But, not only is the federal funding in question, which the mayor's administration seems to think that, no, everything's the same. And that's just that's the conflict that I'm seeing here.
Right. Just to interrupt for a second,
Yeah.
a lot of the pushback from the administration is one of these projects has never not been funded previously. So therefore, we're going to get the funding.
That's a great philosophy to take to this president.
Yeah,
Everything before you did it.
It seems that they're continuing to operate on the assumption that Republican and Democratic presidents and Republican Democratic budgets have always funded this sort of project. And so in some ways what they were betting on was that we weren't going to have the kind of major change that we've seen under the current president. I think it's worth noting that there are two budgets that are being discussed, two federal budgets. The 2017 budget is the one that contains the ARP funding, and even though we're in 2017, it has not yet been passed. We don't know whether Donald Trump will sign it. He hasn't indicated that he expects his new priorities to be reflected in that 2017 budget, but there's a possibility it will never come to fruition. It's the 2018 budget, which the city, I think, never really expected to have money in that budget, or certainly not a lot of money. And so just to clarify, there are two budgets that we're looking at, one that does not appear to have it. The other thing I will say is that although President Trump says we're going to have $1 trillion in infrastructure, he has indicated that $1 trillion is going to come from the local communities, not from the federal government. So there's a lot of confusion right now over how exactly that's going to play out.
Exactly right. Laura, interestingly, there was an article, a number of articles recently, but the one I'm thinking of in the Journal is the uptick in traffic on lead and coal. This is what's been really driving people crazy. People that live on lead and coal, people need to get home. Nothing seems to be working here. And the fear is we're entering this permanent state of traffic along Central, that even when this thing is up and running, single lane in some places, somehow this is our new reality. Is the public on board with this at this point for you? I mean, are people like, go Art, let's get this thing going? You know what I mean? Something seems very off here.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not. Other than people who are actually paid by this project to be PR experts and people who are part of the city administration or those who are around the city council, those are the only people I've heard say, we need to do this.
Right.
Everybody else is just really upset by this for various reasons.
Yeah.
I've spoken to business people along Central who look at the improvement in the surface of the street, who look at improvements
Sidewalks
to cutouts and things like that, and who say yes, we think that this is good. It's unfortunate that it's going to take so long, but I have heard some positive from local business.
Well, I was a big supporter of ARP.
I remember.
And the mayor's office and this communications program that Laura's been referring to has given me nothing to believe and nothing to grasp onto. They talk about providing these huge, grants, for lack of a better word, for marketing, which I think is a horrible idea. But they're not keeping up with their promise and saying, we're going to give this money out. They've been delayed. So, the value proposition for the administration on this project is that, hey, trust us, we're going to do a great job. And now it's, oh my gosh, look at all of the orange barrels. And and you're not keeping your promises and you're not communicating accurately about how the funding works.
By the way, that was a $2 million promise at the beginning. There was going to be a pot of $2 million for low interest or no interest loans. Went down to $100,000. Now we haven't heard from Gary Oppedahl at all the past 3 weeks about when this thing is supposed to happen.
No, it's okay. So, Tom was using a lot of, it's come to fruition, telling the truth, this is what you said. You know, we have to go back. You know, R.J. Berry ran against Marty Chavez's trolley project. I mean, he said, I'm not for the trolley. And so the trolley was basically art. It may not have been this machination of it, but it was a trolley. And so now we've come up with this bus line that's going to run up and down the road. And so it's hard to say, you know, when you run and get elected, I got to tell you, when R.J. Berry ran the first time, I would say a huge chunk of the election was based on this trolley project. There was really two things that moved down there. Was the downtown sports complex that they were talking about and this trolley deal. And he took a very vocal stance against it. And now he's become the biggest supporter of getting this art project done. I just feel like at the end of the day that, you know, there are so many needs that this city has. We've talked about it ad nauseum. You know, getting a bus system that runs up and down Central, I'm sure it's going to be good for some folks that are there. I'm sure there's some that are for it, some that are against it. We still have no way, unless you take a 12-hour bus ride, to get from the airport to Uptown. Right. We have no way to fly into this town and get to a train station to go ski. We have no way to get from downtown where the train drops you off or the bus drops you off out to UNM without it taking hours upon hours upon hours. And I think that, you know, when we talk about Donald Trump and the feds, I think President Trump, I think he believes in the infrastructure. He knows that he's in the real estate business. He knows what that can do. I don't think that he's going to be excited about funding a program when businesses are contacting him saying the government is destroying my business, and I think there's going to be no lack of those folks getting in touch with him.
Laura Sanchez, we had our mayor just a few days ago say there's been, if I have this correct, over 500 building permits pulled along this innovation corridor they're trying to do, that he's interpreting as a vote of confidence on this project. I don't know if you saw that article or not. That seems like an awful lot of activity.
To fix the damage that's been caused.
Right, exactly. But in general terms, is it your sense that we have all this activity now that you know, people are rushing in to fill the void? Is this like a new Albuquerque like a pop-up book about to, you know, if you turn a page here?
Well, I mean, I do think that there's different time horizons when it comes to development. And obviously developers are looking at the potential, the growth. They're looking at things a little bit more, you know, in terms of the tea leaves and what the potential is. But just because you have a building permit doesn't mean, you know, that's one step in many, many steps in the development timeline.
Right.
And you may not have the capital yet. You may still be trying to raise that capital. You know, there's a lot of moving pieces there. So I don't know that that necessarily reflects anything real that's going to happen. I think there's potential there. But again, you know, as Dan said, I mean, I agree with what he said about, you know, all the needs that we have here. And as a West Sider, I really feel that, you know, there's a lot of huge problems when it comes to traffic and transportation. Heaven forbid there should be an accident on I-40 and Paseo. And then you can't use Central, so you've got to use lead and coal. That's right. That's when it really gets bad. And that happens on a fairly regular basis when it comes to rush hour traffic. And I think that, you know, this particular priority doesn't really reflect where the growth has been in the city. And I think there's a disconnect there. So, you know, there's a huge concern, and I think that there are a fair number of people who see this lack of funding from the federal, from the Trump administration as a good thing, because maybe this means that the art won't happen.
That's right, they will roll it back and repave. Right. Tom, we're firmly in the next mayoral cycle race, and we've got folks already on the record saying, look, at a minimum, the new mayor, whoever she or he may be, is going to inherit this thing. And so where do we go from there? You see what I mean? It's not going to be cleaned up and just kind of put to bed by the time this thing
we got it.
Switches
you
over.
Can't go back and fix it. They've tore up the streets. They've got.
That's right.
I mean, there's at least going to be a bus lane down the center at worst case scenario.
That's right. But the politics are tricky here. Let's say someone like Dan's example, you come in and you're not crazy about this project, but it's yours now. Right? You got to find a way to sell this to the public.
So yeah, all 14 will probably will need to address. All 14 candidates will need to address how. I think we're up to 14.
Yeah.
And being a resident of Los Ranchos, I won't have a chin. No, I'm not. I'm not a resident of Los Ranchos. I'm not in the city of Albuquerque. Oh my gosh. But anyway, I don't think that, you know, they're all going to need to address it in some form or fashion.
Right.
And they have to come up with their own plans, and they'll probably, you know, one or two plans that will jump behind those. But you know, it's one of a number of things. You know, how do you fix the budget? You know, because the budget is going to be a huge issue, $10 million by some estimations. Are you going to be, you know, looking at, you know, pushing for control of the city council to push your own initiatives through? Dan Lewis, who has typically been on board with Mayor Berry, has been partying with him on a number of very high-profile issues. And now that we have this comprehensive plan, how will that plan in to what the future of Albuquerque development is? And I think that that's a huge win, by the way, for the city of Albuquerque, is just getting this whole comprehensive plan done. I know some people wanted to have more more talks about it and drag it out.
Right.
But Councilor Benton, I think, was spot on by saying, no, we need to do this. We need to do this now.
Yeah, interesting to watch a little speed happening at council. It kind of throws you off a little bit, actually. Take us home, Sophie, on this one because again, this is very visceral for a lot of people. This is a no joke. I need to get places to get my kids, my job, all this kind of thing. And that article on lead and coal again. The answer from the administration was, well, we are hoping that this bus will help alleviate some of that traffic.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that answer? Because if you got to go from point A to point B, that's fine if it's just on Central, but that's not the way Albuquerque life works.
My sense is that there's not going to be a mass movement from cars to bus unless gas prices go up pretty significantly in the way that we saw in the past, right? That at this point, gas is still cheap enough that people are choosing the option of car instead of bus. I got to say, I travel that lead coal corridor quite frequently because of where my house is and where I work, and I'm not seeing a huge uptick in traffic compared to sort of what I expect. I find that I'm still able to go at about 30 miles per hour, which is the limit.
Right.
Do you go during rush hour?
Really? So I'm not finding it. My expectations are not shattered by what I'm seeing.
Interesting.
What I actually would like to see is for Central to become, at least the Nob Hill portion, to become less of a commuter track. Because when I go into Nob Hill, I'm out on Central toward the west, I think it's dangerous to try and find a parking space. I think it's hard if you're looking if you're looking for a business that you've not been to before because of the push of traffic. And one thing I've seen is that with construction, people are moving. They seem to be moving toward the 40. They seem to be moving in other directions. It's not perfect,
right?
But my hope is that the improved road conditions, et cetera, we're in it. So I'm beyond the point where I can say, none of this should have happened. It's happening, and so
we'll have to grit deal. You've lived in other cities. A lot of people around the country here watching, saying all cities go through this. It's a growth spurt, right? We all have these crazy things, but we'll see what happens. That's all the time we have on that art subject. Now we'll keep an eye on any new development.